Before we get on with the podcast, I wanted to let everyone know that I have 3 books available for sale on Kindle. Recommended Reading for the True Conservative, Bad Democrat, and Evil Liberal. All of them available for $3.99. And now, on with the podcast.
I remember when I was 13, my mom got diagnosed with Parkinson's, and my dad just gave up immediately. Said, I can't deal with this, I can't live like this, and packed up his car. So as a 13-year-old boy, I had to be the one to roll up my sleeves and say, okay, guess I'm going with Dad.
Good morning. It's Thursday, Dark Triad Thursday, August the 20th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have Varney and Company, Liberal Misery, and the Dark Triad. All that and more when I get back. God, give us the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. Thank you. And now, Varney and Company.
Precisely 9 o'clock, right? And I'll take it, Jackie. Good morning to you, and good morning, everyone. And I got two statements from the president, and they are affecting the markets. He says he has ordered what he calls an economic D-Day for Iran. That is, a crushing economic operation. He is escalating the economic war. The market responded to that with higher oil prices. Crude now at $88.16 per barrel. And the price of gas, that's still going up, well above $4 a gallon, $4.10 for regular is the average. Quickly to California, you're at $5.58 there. Now look at diesel. Yep, going up again. I keep saying this. That is inflationary. Up 4 cents overnight to an average of $5.54. Bitcoin. Now that's getting a boost. The president says he's pushing for the Fair Clarity Act to regulate cryptos. The market likes that. You're at 71.8 now for Bitcoin. Stocks not happy with the oil news. The Dow off 400 points. This is pre-market. S&P's down 30. And the Nasdaq's down about a half percentage point. Interest rates going up. The 10-year Treasury yields 4.69%. The 2-year, right about 4.20. You're actually at 4.19. Yields up. One more item from the president. He says we are very close to a wonderful deal with Canada. He's paused the 50% tariffs he said he would impose. On the show today, the left scrambling to walk away from some earlier inflammatory comments. Abdul El Sayed once linked football to slavery. Now he's advertising Michigan is football on Saturdays. Francesca Hong, who once wanted to abolish Thanksgiving, now says it is her favorite holiday. We're waiting to see if Angie Nixon will walk back her radical socialist positions. She's running for the Senate in deep red Florida. Now this came as a shock. Harry and Meghan are returning to full-time to Britain. They've been in self-exile for 6 years, but they've got a deal to go back as private citizens, living in a private house outside London. Why now? The speculation is that Harry wants to see King Charles, whose cancer is reportedly worsening, and they've run out of money. Thursday, August the 20th, 2026.
And again, Stewart is wrong. He talks about the markets as though they are sentient life forms. They are not. They are moved by sentient life forms that run the big banks. Sentient life forms like Jamie Dimon. Nonprofit News Now. Back in a minute. Thank you. You know, life is complicated. People are complicated. And human relationships are really complicated. Sometimes you find yourself in a situation where someone who may be a liberal is manipulating the social structure around you. They begin to turn others against you, subtly at first, then more overtly. Suddenly, you're isolated, misunderstood, misrepresented. Recognizing the liberals' tactics is the first and perhaps most vital step in regaining your footing when someone has turned others against you. Liberals operate in subtle, often insidious ways. They don't usually come out and attack you directly. Instead, they manipulate perception, they shape narratives, plant seeds of doubt, and exploit emotional vulnerabilities. Not only yours, but those of the people around you. Understanding this is not merely about identifying bad behavior. It's about seeing the psychological strategy behind it. Liberals thrive on control and admiration. To maintain their status in the social setting, they often manufacture conflict to elevate themselves as the center of attention or the victim of some imagined injustice. One of their favorite tactics is triangulation. In this dynamic, the liberal acts as a go-between, telling one person one thing and the next person something else entirely. They might tell someone you said something you didn't, or twist a small disagreement into a narrative where you're the bad guy and they're the misunderstood hero. If you treat emotionally or react emotionally or defensively, that reaction becomes part of the story. It becomes evidence that you're unstable or untrustworthy. This manipulation is calculated. It's not accidental. It's designed to erode your support system. Another core tactic is gaslighting. The liberal will make you question your own perception of reality. You may find yourself wondering if you're too sensitive, if you really did miscommunicate, or if perhaps you're at fault after all. Over time, this distorts your sense of self. You start to hesitate before speaking. You begin walking on eggshells. You feel like you're always one misstep away from confirming the false image they're painting of you. That's exactly what they want, to trap you in a cycle of self-doubt and second-guessing. Because the less sure you are of yourself, the more power they hold over the narrative. A liberal doesn't just manipulate individuals, they manipulate groups. They understand social dynamics intuitively. They know how to read a room, how to identify the most influential or emotionally reactive people, and how to subtly win them over. Sometimes it's through charm, other times through shared victimhood. They tell you just enough of the truth to make their lies believable. They leave out context, exaggerate your flaws, or reframe events in a way that puts them in the best possible light while you appear to be the problem. Here's the harsh reality. People often believe them, not because others are stupid or malicious, but because most people want to avoid conflict. It's easier for them to believe the liberals' neat, emotionally charged story than to investigate the messy, uncomfortable truth. This is why recognizing the pattern matters so deeply. If you treat each interaction as an isolated incident, you'll keep trying to solve the wrong problem. You'll try to explain yourself, to clear up the misunderstanding, not realizing that the misunderstanding was the goal all along. You're not dealing with a communication issue. You're dealing with a deliberate distortion campaign. Once you grasp that, your approach changes. You stop trying to fix the unfixable. You stop taking the bait. You begin to see through the emotional chaos and understand the deeper game being played. This realization is not easy. It often comes at the cost of broken trust, social isolation, and inner turmoil. It forces you to look at the people around you with uncomfortable clarity. You have to accept that some people want to believe the worst. Others simply lack the courage to stand by you, and some, tragically, are too easily swayed by the liberal charisma and emotional manipulation. Recognizing all of this is not about becoming paranoid or cynical. It's about sharpening your perception, seeing clearly, because clarity is power. When you see the tactics, you stop being a pawn in someone else's game. You start becoming the author of your own response. Maintaining emotional discipline in the face of manipulation is one of the most difficult yet essential challenges a person can face. When a liberal begins turning others against you, the instinctive response is often emotional anger, betrayal, confusion, and the desperate need to explain yourself. These are all natural reactions, but they are precisely the responses that can deepen the damage if not managed carefully. The liberal thrives on your emotional reactivity, your outbursts, your breakdowns, your attempts to defend yourself passionately. These all become ammunition for their narrative. Emotional discipline, therefore, is not weakness or suppression. It is strategic strength. When you're under social attack, your nervous system is activated. You might feel like you're under siege, and in a sense, you are. Your reputation, your relationships, even your identity are being challenged. The human brain is wired to react to such threats with intensity. This is especially true when the threat comes from the betrayal by someone close or trusted. But here's the danger. When you react from that heightened emotional state, you often validate the very accusations being leveled against you. If the liberal has painted you as a volatile, insecure, or irrational person, then any overly emotional reaction you display becomes proof in the eyes of onlookers. Your emotional honesty is used as a weapon against you. That's the trap. Emotional discipline means stepping back from the chaos, even when every part of you wants to charge forward. It means allowing yourself to feel deeply without letting those feelings dictate your actions. You don't suppress emotion, you regulate it. That distinction is crucial. Emotional regulation allows you to remain grounded in reality when everything around you feels unstable. It lets you speak with clarity, act with intention, and protect your integrity without losing your center. It's not about being cold or robotic. It's about being wise. To cultivate this discipline, you must first become aware of your emotional triggers. You know what specific words, actions, or dynamics spark your strongest reactions. Then prepare for them. If you know a liberal is likely to spread lies, then expect it. Don't be shocked when it happens. That preparation gives you a mental edge. Instead of falling into the emotional pit they've dug for you, you observe it. You step around it. You think 3 moves ahead. This is psychological warfare, and your calmness is your shield. Mindfulness practices, journaling, breathing techniques, these are not just self-help cliches. They're tactical tools. They help you create space between stimulus and response. That space is where your power lies, and in that space you decide whether to speak or stay silent, whether to correct the narrative or let it collapse under its own contradictions. The narcissist wants you emotionally entangled. They want you to be unpredictable, desperate, reactive, because then you're controllable. But when you remain composed, you become unpredictable to them, and that unnerves them more than anything else. Emotional discipline also extends to how you talk about the situation. Be careful not to vent to everyone or seek validation from those who are already under the liberals' influence. Every conversation becomes a potential liability if you let emotion override discernment. Choose your confidence wisely. Speak from clarity, not from pain. The goal isn't to rally people to your side. That's the liberals' game. Your goal is to act in such a way that your truth becomes undeniable over time. Understand this. Emotional discipline is not about denial or passivity. It's about restraint for a purpose. It's about protecting your energy, conserving your dignity, and playing the long game. You're not giving up the fight. You're just refusing to fight on their terms. That distinction matters. Staying true to your values when a liberal turns people against you is not just a matter of ethics. It's a matter of survival. When your integrity is under attack, it becomes tempting to compromise yourself in an effort to regain approval. Thank you, and now, the Dark Triad.
Hey, warriors, there is a rule that decides who gets close to powerful people and who never will. Most people break it without even knowing it exists, and they spend years wondering why the same door keeps closing on them. Here's the rule. Influential people don't choose who stays close based on intelligence, charm, or good looks. They choose based on one quiet question running in the back of their mind every time someone new shows up. What does this person actually add to my life? Almost nobody realizes that question is even being asked. So they spend years trying to get close to successful people the wrong way, asking for favors, asking for attention, asking for a chance, and every time they walk away confused about why the door stayed shut, while someone else seemed to walk through it without even trying. Powerful people are not surrounded by fans. They're surrounded by people who make their life easier, their work stronger, and their decisions sharper. That has been true for as long as people have organized themselves into groups, and it hasn't changed today. The biggest mistake people make is spending all their energy trying to get access, and almost none of it becoming worthy of it. They keep asking, who can help me get in? But the people who actually rise ask a completely different question. How do I become someone worth keeping around? That question is what this entire video is built on. Not tricks, not shortcuts. Just a clear look at how influence actually forms between people and how it's lost just as fast. 7 laws, straight from Machiavelli's understanding of human behavior, applied to real life today. Apply even a few of these, and you'll notice how differently people start treating you. Most advice about getting ahead focuses on confidence, networking,
or saying the right words at the right time. But none of that works long-term if there's nothing behind it. Confidence without value comes across as noise. Networking without value just means collecting names nobody remembers a week later. The foundation has to be real, or everything built on top of it eventually collapses. That's exactly what these 7 laws are designed to fix. Not by teaching you to perform differently, but by teaching you to actually become someone worth keeping around. Every law you're about to hear builds on the one before it, so pay attention to how they connect. By the end, you'll understand not just what to do, but why it actually works on a psychological level. Why some people naturally draw others in, while others push people away without ever realizing it. Before we move forward, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I attract power through value. Let's get into it. Law 1. Become useful before you become important. Picture this. Someone finally gets a few minutes near a person they admire, and the first thing they do is ask for something, advice, a favor, a shortcut they didn't earn. Without meaning to, they've just told that person something damaging. I have nothing to offer you. I'm here to take. Almost nobody notices when they do this to themselves. Successful people are approached constantly. Every day, someone wants their time, their attention, their resources. So without even trying, their mind starts sorting every new person into one of 2 groups, people who take and people who build. The moment you walk in asking before you've given anything, you get sorted fast, and it's hard to undo that first impression. Now picture the opposite. Someone walks into the same room, and instead of asking for anything, they pay attention. They notice a problem nobody else caught. They quietly solve something small without needing credit for it. That person doesn't get filed away as a taker. They get remembered as an asset, and assets don't get forgotten. This is the first law, and everything else is built on top of it. Become useful before you try to become important. Value comes first. Visibility follows. Before you try to get close to anyone influential, ask yourself a few honest questions. What problem can I actually solve here? What skill do I bring that's genuinely rare? What changes for the better just because I showed up? These aren't selfish questions, they're strategic ones. The fastest way to be remembered by anyone is to make their life a little easier the moment you enter it. People rarely protect those who constantly need something from them. They protect the ones who consistently bring something. A person who provides real value becomes hard to replace. And once you're hard to replace, you stop having to chase anything because other people start making sure you stay close. None of this means overextending yourself or trying to please everyone. It's about precision. One well-timed act of usefulness carries more weight than 100 desperate attempts to be noticed. History is full of people who solved real problems and kept their place, and just as many who offered nothing but flattery and eventually lost everything they thought they had earned. Usefulness doesn't have to be dramatic to count. Sometimes it's the small, consistent things, catching a detail nobody else caught, offering the right piece of insight at the right moment, showing up prepared while everyone else showed up empty-handed. People remember those small contributions far longer than they remember big words that never turned into anything. There's a practical way to apply this immediately. Before walking into any situation where you want to make an impression, ask what the room actually needs right now. Not what would make you look good, but what problem is sitting there unsolved. Most people never ask this question because they're too focused on how they'll be perceived. But the people who consistently get remembered are the ones who shift attention off themselves and onto the actual gap in front of them. This also means learning to spot value in places other people overlook. Sometimes the most useful thing you can do isn't loud or visible at all. It's catching something before it becomes a bigger issue, or quietly making someone else's job easier without needing to announce it. Usefulness that goes unnoticed by the crowd is often exactly what gets noticed by the person who actually matters. There's one more layer worth understanding here. Being useful isn't about constantly doing more. It's about paying closer attention than everyone else in the room. Two people can put in the exact same amount of effort, but the one who notices what's actually needed will always stand out more than the one who's simply busy. Effort without direction gets overlooked. Effort aimed at a real gap gets remembered. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I lead with value, not need. Law 2. Build value before seeking recognition. There's a pattern almost everyone falls into at some point. They want respect before they've built anything worth respecting. They want to be noticed before they've actually developed the skills worth noticing. This backwards order is one of the biggest reasons doors stay closed. Influential people aren't drawn to potential. They're drawn to proof. They respond to competence over description, results over promises, discipline over excuses. More than anything, they respond to reliability, the quiet kind that never needs to announce itself. Most people try to convince others of their value through words. They talk about their goals, their plans, everything they're about to do. But talk is cheap, and people with real influence have heard 1,000 promises that went nowhere. What they haven't seen enough of is quiet, consistent proof. So the shift is simple to describe, harder to practice. Stop trying to prove your worth through conversation. Build something that speaks for you before you even open your mouth. A skill sharpened through hundreds of hours of practice. A body of work that shows discipline. A reputation built one honest action at a time. Let the evidence arrive before you do. Think about the people you genuinely respect in your own life. You likely don't respect them because they told you how good they were. You respect them because you watched them do something well, consistently, without needing applause for it. That's the exact energy influential people are looking for. Not confidence in words, but confidence backed by a track record. Building real value takes time. It takes doing the same disciplined work on the days nobody's watching, so that on the day someone finally is, there's something real to see. Patience becomes strategy. Consistency becomes leverage. Your reputation should walk into the room before you do. Not your name, not your title. Your reputation, earned quietly and spoken about by other people, not yourself. There's a certain freedom in this approach too. Once you stop needing people to notice your effort in real time, you stop performing for approval and start working with actual focus. That focus compounds over months and years into something far stronger than any impressive introduction could create. And when recognition finally comes, it feels solid, because it was earned instead of borrowed through clever words. There's also a hidden benefit to this approach that most people never think about. When you build quietly, instead of announcing constantly, you protect yourself from the pressure of living up to promises you made too early. You give yourself room to actually improve, adjust, and get better without an audience watching every stumble along the way. By the time anyone notices what you've built, it's already solid, already tested, already real. Law 3. Understand their world before entering it. Most people try to build a connection with someone influential the same way, by talking about themselves, their goals, their struggles, their story. It feels natural because that's usually how connection works between friends. But here's the uncomfortable part. Influential people are usually focused on their own goals and challenges almost every waking moment, not on hearing yours. This isn't coldness, it's focus. People who reach real influence usually got there through relentless attention to their own work. If you walk into their world only talking about your world, you become background noise instead of a real presence. So the third law flips the usual approach. Understand their world before trying to enter it. Before building any real connection with someone influential, do the quiet work first. Study what they actually care about, not what you assume they care about. Understand the challenges they're carrying that most people never notice, because most people are too busy talking about themselves to pay attention. Learn how they think, what they value, and what matters to them right now. not 5 years ago. This takes more patience than most people have, because it means stepping out of the spotlight for a while in a culture that constantly pushes self-promotion. But that discomfort is exactly where the advantage lives. People trust those who understand their perspective, because that kind of understanding is rare. Think about how few people in your life have ever understood what you're dealing with without needing it explained a dozen times. When someone does understand quickly, it builds trust almost instantly. That's the exact feeling worth creating in the mind of someone influential. Reading a room and adjusting your approach without losing yourself in the process isn't weakness. It's social intelligence at its sharpest. The people who genuinely shape the world around them are rarely the loudest in the room. They're the ones who understood the room before they ever spoke in it. So the next time you're preparing to approach someone influential, resist leading with your own story. Lead with real curiosity about theirs. Ask questions that show you've actually paid attention. Notice details other people overlook. That single shift separates the people who get remembered from the ones forgotten within minutes. This kind of awareness can't be faked in the moment. It has to be built beforehand through genuine attention. The people who master this law aren't scrambling for something clever to say. They already know what matters to the person in front of them because they took the time to notice long before the conversation started. This kind of understanding also changes how you're perceived over time, not just in a single conversation. People start to notice that you're the one who remembers small details, who follows up on things that actually matter to them, who doesn't need everything explained twice. That reputation, built slowly through attention rather than words, becomes one of the most valuable things you can carry into any room. It's also worth noticing that this kind of attention can't be rushed for the sake of a single interaction. Trying to gather information about someone just to use it immediately usually comes across as exactly what it is, calculated rather than genuine. Real understanding builds gradually through repeated small observations over time, not through a single well-prepared conversation. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I understand before I am understood. Law 4. Control your image and reputation. People decide your value before they actually know you. Before any real conversation happens, a judgment forms based on how you carry yourself, how others speak about you, and the patterns people notice in your behavior. That may not feel fair, but it's real. Your reputation functions like currency, and like any currency, it can be built slowly or lost in an instant. Influential people, consciously or not, are constantly reading patterns. How do you act when something goes wrong? How do you treat people who can't benefit you in any way? How consistent are you across different days and different moods? Who do you spend your time around? And what does that say about your standards? These quiet observations shape an opinion long before any formal introduction ever takes place. Here's the part that stings. One careless action, one moment of poor judgment, one instance of disrespect towards someone who didn't matter can undo years of careful reputation building. Reputation grows slowly and breaks fast, so protect your name the way you'd protect anything valuable. Build an image rooted in confidence rather than arrogance, discipline rather than rigidity, reliability rather than perfection, and emotional control, especially in moments where losing it would feel justified. Consistently displayed, these traits create something rare in a noisy world: stability. People trust individuals who appear stable and intentional because stability signals safety. Influential people can't afford to associate with instability because instability threatens everything they've built. If you want to stay close to influence, prove through consistent pattern that your presence brings calm instead of chaos. Perception often shapes how people are judged long before the full truth ever comes out. Most people never dig deep enough to find the whole picture. They act on what they see and decide from there. So the goal isn't to fake anything. It's to make sure how you present yourself actually matches the discipline you're building underneath. This law isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about protecting the version of yourself that took years to build by refusing to let one careless moment define you in someone else's mind. The people who last longest in any influential circle are usually the ones who think before reacting, not because they lack passion, but because they understand exactly what a single reckless moment can cost them. This is also why consistency matters more than intensity. You don't need a single dramatic moment to prove your character. What actually builds trust is showing the same discipline on an ordinary day as you do on a day when people are watching closely. Over time, that repetition becomes the reputation people talk about when you're not even in the room. Law 5. Never chase. Become someone worth chasing. There's a certain energy that surrounds people who chase too hard, and influential people can sense it almost instantly, even without being able to explain why. It's the energy of neediness, and neediness does more damage to influence than almost anything else. Here's why. When you constantly chase someone influential, reaching out repeatedly, showing up uninvited, pushing for attention nobody offered, you're unintentionally sending a message. You have something I lack, and I can't function without it. That message lowers your position instantly, even if you never say it out loud. Influential people aren't drawn to desperation. They're drawn to presence, the kind that comes from someone who already has skills worth respecting, confidence that doesn't depend on outside validation, and a clear sense of direction they're pursuing, regardless of who notices. In other words, they're drawn to people who don't need them, but who would add real value if they were around. That might sound like a contradiction. How do you build a connection with someone without pursuing it? The answer takes discipline, not tricks. Stop trying to earn a place and instead become someone whose presence would genuinely improve any room you walk into. Build your own skills. Build your own reputation. Build a sense of direction strong enough that it doesn't depend on anyone else's approval to keep moving. When you build your own strength independently, something shifts. You stop needing access because you're already creating something valuable on your own. And that's usually the exact moment access starts finding you instead. People are drawn toward growth, toward someone clearly going somewhere with or without their help. Those who genuinely hold value rarely have to beg for access, because value naturally pulls attention toward itself instead of needing to chase it. So if you notice yourself constantly chasing attention from someone influential, pause. Redirect that energy inward. Build the version of yourself that wouldn't need to chase in the first place. The version whose presence carries weight without needing to say a word. This doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means your energy stops leaking outward as desperation and starts flowing inward toward your own growth. Patience becomes the strategy instead of the weakness. Over time, the very people you once chased often end up noticing you first, simply because you stopped needing them to. There's a difference between staying engaged and constantly reaching out, and it's worth learning to tell them apart. Staying engaged means continuing to build, continuing to show up consistently, continuing to add value where you can. Chasing means interrupting someone else's attention just to feel noticed. One builds respect over time, the other quietly erodes it. Confidence in this context isn't about acting unaffected or pretending you don't care. It's about genuinely investing your time and energy into things that grow, whether or not anyone else is watching. That kind of quiet investment is what eventually makes people want to be part of what you're building, instead of you needing to convince them to notice it. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I build power, I don't chase it. Law 6. Master strategic communication. Most people talk far more than they should, especially around people they're trying to impress. Nerves take over, and suddenly they're revealing their whole plan, their doubts, their private intentions, all within the first few minutes of a conversation. Every unnecessary word given away like this quietly weakens their position. Influential people rarely make this mistake because they understand something most people never learn. Information carries weight, and every unnecessary word spoken is a small transfer of that weight out of your hands. This is the sixth law, mastering strategic communication. It doesn't mean becoming secretive or cold. It means becoming intentional. Not everything needs to be said, and what does need to be said doesn't always need to be said right away. Start with listening. Most people wait for their turn to speak instead of actually absorbing what's being said. But listening more than you speak gives you something valuable, real information about the other person's priorities and goals, which you can use to add genuine value later. Silence, used this way, isn't weakness, it's attention. When you do speak, speak with intention. Every sentence should serve a purpose, building trust, offering real insight, or asking a sharp question. Avoid over-explaining yourself, especially in moments where a short, confident answer carries more weight than a long, anxious one. And perhaps most importantly, keep your plans private until they're finished. This can feel counterintuitive in a culture that praises constant updates and loud announcements, but there's real strength in staying quiet. Announcing plans before they're ready invites doubt and criticism from people who feel threatened by your growth. Doing the work quietly and letting the results speak later removes that risk entirely, and the eventual result carries far more impact. Silence creates curiosity. People naturally wonder about what they don't fully know, and that curiosity often turns into respect. Controlled communication, saying exactly what needs to be said and nothing more, builds the image of someone who thinks before speaking, someone whose words actually carry weight because they aren't spent carelessly. Countless people throughout history have talked their way into trouble by revealing too much too soon to the wrong people. The ones who came out ahead understood that every word is a choice, not just a release of pressure. This law protects you in another way too. When your plans stay private, they can't be talked out of you by doubters or judged before they've had the chance to fully form. Used strategically, silence becomes a shield around your growth, letting your work speak once it's finished, instead of half-built and exposed too early. This law also changes how people experience you in conversation. When you're not rushing to fill every silence or explain every decision, people naturally lean in a little more because they sense there's more beneath the surface than what's being said. That quiet confidence, more than any clever line, is usually what makes someone memorable. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence holds my power. Law 7. Become an asset, not an admirer. There's a quiet truth behind a lot of missed opportunities. Admiration alone never builds real closeness. You can respect someone from a distance for years, follow everything they do, and still remain completely invisible to them. Admiration creates distance. Contribution creates connection. This final law pulls everything together. Influential people don't keep admirers close. They keep people close who genuinely add to their strength, their capability, or their peace of mind in some way. If your presence doesn't add anything real to their world, admiration alone won't be enough to earn a lasting place beside them. So the real question becomes, what can you consistently bring? Knowledge that helps someone see what they hadn't considered, solutions to problems they hadn't figured out, opportunities they wouldn't have found on their own, loyalty that holds steady even when it's inconvenient. Thinking that adds real clarity to decisions they're already working through. These are the things that move a person from watching influence from the outside to genuinely being part of it. This isn't a one-time gesture. It's not a single impressive moment that buys permanent access. It's a pattern, repeated consistently, that proves your value again and again until it becomes undeniable. Real influence at its core is built on mutual benefit, Not transactional coldness, but mutual respect built on the understanding that both sides bring something real. The goal was never to stand below someone influential, hoping to be noticed. The goal is to rise until you become someone they genuinely want, standing beside them. Influence is never handed out freely. It's earned through demonstrated value, repeated over time, until trust becomes almost automatic. Admiration might get you noticed for a moment. Becoming an asset gets you a lasting place. So take an honest look at how you show up around people you respect. Are you simply admiring from a distance, hoping to be seen? Or are you actively building the kind of value that makes your presence matter? That shift from admirer to asset doesn't happen overnight, but every decision to contribute instead of just observe moves you a step closer. This is ultimately the law that ties everything else together. Usefulness, built value, understanding, reputation, patience, and strategic communication all lead to this single outcome, becoming someone whose presence genuinely strengthens the people around them. Becoming an asset doesn't mean losing yourself in service of someone else's goals. It means understanding that real closeness is built through exchange, not one-sided admiration. The people who understand this stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing to contribute, and that shift alone tends to change how quickly doors start opening. None of these 7 laws work in isolation. Usefulness without patience burns out fast. Communication without genuine understanding feels hollow. It's the combination, practiced consistently over time, that actually changes how people experience your presence. Influential circles aren't closed because the people inside them dislike outsiders. They're selective because real value is rare, and rare things tend to get protected carefully. That's simply how influence has always worked, and it still works exactly that way today. The world doesn't reward the people who talk the most about what they deserve. It rewards the people who understand human behavior, create real results, and become impossible to overlook because of the value they consistently bring. Think back to what we covered: becoming useful before becoming important, building real value before seeking recognition, understanding someone's world before trying to enter it, controlling your image and protecting your reputation with discipline, refusing to chase and instead becoming someone worth chasing, mastering strategic communication instead of giving your power away through unnecessary words, and finally, becoming an asset instead of just another admirer standing at a distance. None of these laws ask you to become someone you're not. They ask you to become more disciplined, more intentional, and more valuable, not to impress anyone, but because that's genuinely how respect and influence get built, one honest action at a time. So here's the real shift to walk away with today. Stop asking, how can I get closer to powerful people? That question keeps you waiting, hoping to be chosen. Instead, start asking a different one. How can I become valuable enough that they want me closer? That single shift in mindset changes the direction of your life.
And that was the Dark Triad. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that no one is neutral and that the government has no rights.